right. Good morning, Scott. Thank you for joining us here on our webinar.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. This is our third one that we're doing here. The topic today is everything install. So I couldn't think of a better guest than the man himself that manages a large percentage of our installs, Scott Lefevre on the panel. So Scott, before we really get into the details of all this, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do when you're not installing windows? Who is Scott Lefevre?
I mean, I enjoy hunting and outdoor activities, doing stuff on my property, enjoy our dogs, my family.
Very good. What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a wire hair dachshund who's Spike, who tracks wounded deer for people, and a Cavalier King Charles, a lab, and a Shih Tzu.
Wow. Very cool. We could probably have an entire webinar on what it's like for a dog to track wounded deer. That's an interesting talent for a dog to have.
You'll have to follow me on Facebook.
Okay, I will do that. So how long have you been with Wallside, running crews and installing? What was the progression like for you?
I mean, probably in 1987, I started with my dad, and then probably in about maybe 1990, I went off and did, started my own crew, and then just, kind of went from there.
Wow, very cool. And how many crews do you oversee right now?
9.
9, okay. And how many folks typically make up a crew?
Usually anywhere from 3 to 5.
3 to 5, okay. So you have a lot of moving parts. You're overseeing a lot of people and a lot of homes today.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what we have prepared today is a slide deck of some windows, right? And we have some specific questions around the windows and the type of install, removal types, different things we should be looking out for it as a sales team. And then we just have a conversation around those windows. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Can you see my screen all right there, Scott?
Does it say just welcome everything install?
It does, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we have our base model window here, pretty straightforward. What's jumping out to you with this window?
Me?
Yes.
It's so hard to see, but I'd say it's an outside install window.
Okay. So what makes you say it's an outside install?
Or maybe I can't see the stops good enough. Can you zoom in on that?
I don't think so. I might be able to switch over to a PDF of it. Let's go to another photo and see if you can see that one a little better. How is that one?
Yes. Well, I'm assuming that first set of windows was that an existing wall side window? That's what I
It
assumed.
was, yes.
Yeah, okay. This is definitely an outside install job.
And what makes it an outside install job?
Just how the casing overlaps the stop, but it's just too far away for people to see it, I think. It's all about the stop molding.
Okay. So when your crews show up at a home like this, they see this particular window, they're already prepped beforehand on their paperwork that it's an outside install, correct? They know going into it.
They should, yes.
So what's the first thing they're going to do when they're in a customer's home in this particular case?
I mean, we lay down drop cloths. I mean, possibly rugs on the hardwood floor. And, this doesn't appear to be a pre-78 house. So we wouldn't use plastic. We might put some plastic over some furniture and whatnot, but, we just lay down drop cloths, and hopefully when we get there, these blinds and curtains are down and the furniture is moved away like it is.
Okay. I have one gentleman piping in with a question here. Jeff, did you have a question for Scott on this particular photo?
Yes, I did. With those circle tops on top, you said that, I know the double hungs are outside install.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So the circle tops are outside install too?
No, we went outside to install the circle tops.
Okay. That's what I thought. So the circle tops are actually going to are you going to do that with the new stop molding, or are you going to do that with?
Sometimes we try to save that stop molding on those, but if we can't, we will just put up a new stop molding.
New stop molding. Okay. So does it have to be like a special pre-bent one, or?
I mean, it's just a 3/4 round that goes around that inside.
Okay. And you guys can mold it to that shape there on site. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Scott, for jumping in on that one. I'd like to go back to this photo. Actually, I know it was kind of hard for you to see, Scott. But up in the corners, there's the brackets that hold the blinds in place.
Right.
And oftentimes those brackets are actually on the inside of the window, sitting there, right?
Right.
So when we go and replace a window like this, just a basic double hung, do the installers know to place the double hung as far back as possible to allow as much room at the top for that, or how do they think through that type of situation?
I mean, we put back the same stop that's typically there, that was there to begin with. The problem is the old double hungs, they didn't have the old double hungs, that upper sash sat back. So a lot of times those brackets would be able to go kind of into the window opening, where now we put the vinyl window in there and they'll hit our frame of our window.
Okay.
Because the other window sat back into the house.
Yep.
Outside the house, like my windows here. I don't know if people can see that. Can you see the top of that window there? But see, that blind bracket could slide all the way back to the sash.
Okay.
Up in here. Can go all the way back.
Yep, I see that. we have another question from Steve Grandin. Steve, did you have a question?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Just a comment and a question. So you had mentioned, when they go in, can the crew set that window as far back to allow for the brackets and the blinds? The problem with that is usually on an outside install, you're bringing the window in as far as the interior stop will allow you. So there's not a ton of, the window's going to butt up to the inside stop. So it's kind of all predetermined where that window's going to sit.
Right.
So you really couldn't sit it any farther back because then it wouldn't be hitting the stop molding.
Right. I agree with that.
Okay. Yep.
And then my
Very good.
other question is I notice down at the bottom where the casing and the sill meet, and then underneath it where the sill and the apron meet, it looks like a bead of caulk was run, white caulk, to fill that area.
So all of these photos are pre-install. This is not a finished product.
Oh,
But
okay.
but sorry, maybe that's not your question.
Yeah,
Yes, I assume, just like Steve assumed, that this is a wall side window that
correct.
we installed. I assume that this is a finished product that you were showing us. So this is a window
No.
that we're going to remove.
Correct. Yeah, I got these photos from the photo gallery for construction review. So these are all pre-install photos of jobs we're actually doing that were sold in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So these are all current customers. You might see this window here in a month or two.
Okay, I assume that this was that we already installed this window.
Yeah, I did too.
And like Steve said, it looks like it's all fresh caulking on it.
And that's what I was going to say. That's not something we would do, is it?
Typically, no.
All right. Thank you, Steve, for the question. All right. So these are questions that I get from time to time, and it's when there's some sort of addition or back porch, and there's a lot of non-structural pieces along with very structural pieces. What do we need to be concerned about with this install? What do we need to understand about it?
I mean, do you have inside pictures of this?
Not of this one, no.
See, we should not take out any mullions in a porch, because a lot of times you don't know what's behind those mullions. There's studs in these mullions, so we should not remove any mullions in a porch, in my opinion. Sometimes these people want to, clear out, 6 double hungs to put it, they want to save money by putting a big end vent in, but a lot of times there's studs coming down in between those mullions on these porches, these back porches. It's so hard to see with this one. Can you guys see my screen when I move my mouse?
We cannot, no.
Okay. But like on this one where that door attaches to that other window, I don't know what's going on there. These are like jealousy windows that are coming out. So I'm assuming there should be some wood in there. But stuff like this, when you're tying into these doors, and it looks like there's even maybe a small window on top of the door. Am I seeing that correctly or not?
There tends to be, it looks like there's a little gap. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the top of that door. So as a rep, when we walk up to a home and we see this in the back of the house, and the customer says, hey, I want 2 new double hungs in this space next to this door here, how do we begin to educate the customer on that install process and whether or not we can even do a window like this?
I mean, we should be able to do that window as long as nothing's rotted out. That's another thing. If you see stuff that's rotted out in there, I mean, I wouldn't want to touch it just because you're, who knows what you're going to get yourself into.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this is a finished product by Wallside. This is not one that I pulled from the back category, but what stands out to you here? What do we need to understand about this install process? It looks like we're going into brick. There's a curved top. As we're talking with the customer, what goes into consideration for a job like this?
When I see they have all those bushes underneath, so I mean, we have to get in there. We have to get ladders in there. It looks like this is probably a garage window, I would assume. It almost looks like it's missing a button on the one side of it also. Looks like a hub should be added to this circle, I would think.
I see. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, just have this stuff moved out inside because we need a lot of extra room on something like this on the inside of the house.
Yep. Okay. All right, here we have a basement window. We're replacing this with maybe a double slider. Something's going in there. What are we replacing wood-wise? What's going to happen to this opening before and after the install?
Are you saying we're taking that mullion out? Or just putting two separate windows in here? Because that's how it should go. Two separate windows.
Yeah, it'll be two separate windows. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we like on something like this, we'd just take those windows out and put the new windows inside the existing buck, I would hope. Rather than full buck this one. This is a wood.
Yeah.
This is a wood window.
Okay, very good. We have a question here. Go ahead, Bill.
Scott, why wouldn't you want to take that mull out?
Because of those two studs coming down.
Would it have an effect on a header or anything like that?
Yes, it could. Yeah, those studs are supporting something. Even though that they stop right there, I don't know what's up above that. It's a 24-inch opening. Now, if you cut in that's helping support, that top. And you cut that out, and you're changing it into a 4-foot opening with no extra studs in between. Does that header have enough to support the top?
Gotcha.
Yep. All right. So here's another pretty straightforward window. If you don't mind, could you talk a little bit about extension jambs and casings and when we know when we should be talking about those with customers, when you would recommend us using them and what that looks like?
I mean, this window doesn't appear that it would need it. It looks like it's just a slider.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the people want more glass space or something. This also looks like it's probably a basement. Just judging from the ceiling on top.
Yeah.
It's a drop ceiling on the inside, and it looks like, maybe there's walkout basement on the backside.
Yep. All right, we're going to go to Mike Elbert, who has a question. Go ahead, Michael.
That looks to be like a drywall return that already has like quarter round in there. It already looks like there was a replacement window in that opening already almost. I mean, the window's sitting in the pocket, so you don't typically do extension jams and casing in a drywall return with a pocket like that, correct?
I think it's just, it looks to me like it's a wood window. But it's probably set back because of the basement walls are so thick.
Yep.
That's what I'm thinking it is. Because it looks like it's a wood window from the handle on the right-hand side.
Yeah, very good. We're going to go to Gina, who has a question for you. Go ahead, Gina.
I don't have a question. Sorry. I must have bumped it.
Yeah, no worries. Jeff, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm glad you brought up about the extension jams. I have a couple questions about them. Now, this one here, you could do the extension jam just as a added trim feature on the inside, right? If somebody wanted it to be trimmed out like that.
What do you mean?
Say like they wanted the extension jam on the inside with the picture frame casing.
They just want that look, not necessarily because something has to be done. They want it.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. The other question I have about extension jams, and this is a good picture of one. This one's got a drywall return. Okay. But the one that's always confusing that you can't get a straight answer from anybody on is when you're taking out a wood bucked window and they want an extension jam on the inside with the picture frame casing. My question is, do they remove that buck? Do they keep the buck? Because from what I asked around, one installer says it's the way the measurement measures it. The measurement says you don't necessarily have to take it out. But then I had an installer tell a customer when I told him we were going to remove it and we didn't, that it didn't say anything on the contract about removing the existing buck.
Well, if we extension jam a job, we got the whole opening out. I think probably the confusion is you have an installer go out there and say we don't have to we didn't have to remove this. We can save what you have and not extension jam it, not case it.
Well, he did. He ended up putting the extension jam and the casing over the existing buck.
Well, see, if that's the case, then somebody measured it inside the buck.
Okay.
Whoever measured it, it's all at measure, how the measurement measures it. Probably what happened was the measurement went out there, didn't catch that you wanted extension jams. He measured it like normal, didn't even catch that it was extension jams. So he put it inside the existing pocket. The installers get out there and, it was measured to go inside the existing box. So they just probably backpedaled and said, well, we can put all new casings up for you.
Right. He did. I mean, it ended up looking real nice and the customer was satisfied with it. But, like when you're doing a brick opening and you have an existing wood window with the buck, and then you put the window in and you put the extension jam over it, now you're using 3 1/4 inch casing instead of 2 1/4 inch casing.
Right. But that's because the measurement should have measured it to take the buck out. So then we make the window the size of the existing buck. It's past, we add 2 inches to it approximately.
Yep. Great. Thank you for the question. We'll move over to Tom. Tom, you have the floor. You had a question?
Yeah, it doesn't even look like there's room on the right side interior picture to put case molding, is there? I mean, how would you case that out? Just three sides?
Yes. Yes, we just do it on 3 sides. And,
Yeah.
put something up the other side of it.
Yep, and that's a great question too about setting the expectations right for the customer, right? We're thinking through, you can't even put casing on one side. So the customer understands that they're only going to have casing on 3 sides. Mark Abels, you had a question.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. You're
Okay.
coming through loud and clear.
All right. So when you're doing, Scott, when you're doing extension jams or full bucks, and it's a wood window coming out, say it's like a wood casement window, do you always remove the brick mold on the outside?
99% of the time, yes.
Okay. In what instance or what case wouldn't you remove the brick mold?
I mean, if we're taking out the entire window, I mean, next to never.
Okay. You mean you would always take the brick mold off?
Yes, because it's attached to the window.
It's attached to the window. Okay. I just wanted to make sure because that's what I've been telling everyone.
Yep. Great question. All right.
Sometimes we've had jobs before where a salesman will say to replace all the brick mold or remove all the brick mold. I mean, the brick mold is what holds that buck into place. So, I mean, that's just not something that can be done and, keep the integrity of the window.
Mm-hmm.
Because the brick mold is kind of like the nail fin of a wood window.
Yeah, when I sell the job, I always tell them that we are going to remove everything, including the brick mold and the exterior sill.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if we're not doing an extension jam or a full buck and they've got some rotten brick mold? Can that just be cut out and splice a new piece in and trimmed over, or like a little bit of rotten sill? Like how does that work?
Yeah. I mean, typically we'll cut out a little bit of whatever's rotted, but always make sure and look at the extent of the rot. And I mean, we can't do that to every single window and repair all these windows. I mean, at that point, you're better off just to rip everything out.
Correct.
1 or 2
Yeah.
molds per job. We cut them out and we just scab in wood.
Yeah, if I just see it on like 1 window or 2 windows, that's one thing. But if I see a lot of rotten wood, then obviously I'm going to sell extension jams or full bucks.
Right.
All right. Tom, did you have one last question on this?
Yeah,
And then we have to move on.
Yeah, just in that regard, on the exterior brick mold that's rotted, usually it's on the sill, especially if it's inside brick or masonry. So does that change? Let's say you only repair 3 windows out of 10. Does it change the exterior width or profile of the coil? In
No.
other words, does one window look different than another window?
No.
Okay,
It's just all
so
over anyway.
so the
You still there, Scott?
I'm here.
Okay, great.
I think we lost. It was a Tom.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
again, no, he answered it. So the width, the
Okay.
dimension of the exterior coil would be the same on all the windows, but even though you're only replacing some of the rotted brick mold.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so our next one, I've already had some questions from the team to go over this specific one. So we have a door wall that we're going to be removing and installing. Before we get into the specifics of this particular door wall, one of the largest errors that we see as a sales team is when we sell a standard size door, but it turns out to be a custom door. How do we avoid that pitfall? How do we measure the door and sell the right size to the customer?
You know, sometimes, I mean, you know, sometimes that's tough without knowing how we're gonna install it. Like, I can't see the casing on this job, but those end windows might have all the same casing integrated with the door wall.
Mhm.
You know, so I mean, you know, sometimes a wood window or wood door wall, you know, we can, you know, leave the casing and pull back to what's there. You know, rather than redoing the casing, you know, we just, you know, make it so that we can save what they have and try to pull back to it.
Okay. So if we go up to an existing door wall, and let's say it's our standard 6-foot door wall. Oh, someone's chiming there. And it's a 6-foot door wall, but it has the wood casing around it. What do we need to watch out for or be aware of with that one?
I mean, like I said, you know, we can rip the whole buck out and put a standard size door wall in a lot of times, but you know, sometimes they have elaborate, you know, blinds up on top. It's a bay window or a, you know, kind of a walkout situation. You know, and all their blind brackets are attached to the casing. You know, sometimes they have an elaborate setup with the door wall casing and you know, the blinds and curtains and whatnot. I mean, that's just kind of a tough one. It's, you know, the measure man's kind of decision on how he feels that we should install it.
Okay. All right. Let's move to John Capozzoli. You had a question?
No, it's me again, Dave. Jeff.
All right, go ahead, Jeff. Yep.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're coming through as well, John. Let's let John ask the question, and I'll come back to you, Jeff, after that.
I don't have a question, but this is what, since I was an installer on that configuration right there, I always tell the customer on a wood door wall, if you fit it within the wood buck that's currently there, most likely 99% of the time it will be custom. And you have to let the customer know that ahead of time. So that door wall will be downsized a little bit to save everything inside that area. If they don't mind, like Scott said, you most likely can get a standard in there, but you got to gut the opening.
Yeah, very good. Okay.
But if it's an aluminum door wall, it's generally a standard door wall, most likely.
You know, and sometimes too, like John said, you know, you'd have to gut that opening. And again, sometimes an aluminum door wall, you can usually put a standard door wall in, but you know, sometimes these door walls are, you know, maybe they're 81 inches. And, you know, me as an installer, we go out there and, you know, the customer says, oh, I thought these were custom, as they see us throwing a 2x4 on the top of the door wall. And, you know, then they're not happy with that. You know, I thought these windows were custom, and, you know, why are you putting that 2x4 up there? You know, then we put a big wide 3 1/4 casing around it, you know, because before they didn't even have casing because it was a drywall return.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, maybe some of these aluminum ones that are in drywall or the vinyl ones, you know, explain to the customer that, you know, we can put a standard size door wall in here, but you're going to, you know, have, you know, might not be as tall as this one is. And, you know, when I did a lot of measuring, and if I was measuring a job and I could just kind of feel the people out, like they're not going to care, I wouldn't even say anything. You know, but if I see someone that I know is going to be very particular about something, I would probably measure it custom and make it go all the way up, because I think that we would have problems with that customer if I didn't do that. You know, and sometimes too, you know, it's a fine line. Do you say something to the customer? Do you just do it? You know, you make it custom, you know, then, you know, the customer, you know, knows that it's, you make it custom and the customer just never knows that we, made it a custom door wall.
Right, gotcha. All right, Jeff, you had a question?
Yeah, my question was for you, Dave. Do we always send the measurement out on, just say you sell just a door wall and the measurement goes out, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Now, when I sell a door wall, it doesn't matter. I always add in for the custom. Okay. So if the measurement is going out there, why wouldn't, and it needed to be a custom, why would he put a standard in there? Is my question.
Well, because the size that he measured is the perfect size for our standard door wall.
Right. But I'm
And-
saying if it's bigger than a custom, like you said, putting a 2x4 on top of it, why wouldn't the measurement have measured it for a custom door?
Yeah, if you put custom, he should have measured it. He should have measured it to go up. But sometimes we go on these jobs where a salesman just says, just writes down door wall. I don't know if it was sold custom or not when we go to measure. And typically when I'm measuring a job and the salesman calls out for a custom door wall, and like I said, the size is perfect to put a standard door wall in, I won't write standard. I'll typically just write the size of our standard door wall. Then the customer has no clue whether or not it was custom or not, because I don't write standard. Because sometimes, when the guys come out to install, they see, they see paperwork and it, they know they were charged extra for a custom, and then they see that the measurement wrote standard and they're upset about it.
Yeah. Very good. So we're coming to the end of our time here. I think we could probably do this for a few hours, just go slide by slide and keep asking questions about these particular things. While we have your attention, I'm going to bring Mark Tyler onto the platform right now too. And we're just going to talk about some operations and have some general operation questions. And then we're going to say thank you one last time and wrap up. So there you are, Mark. How are you? Welcome to the webinar. So Scott, this question is for you. Customers ask us from time to time, do we use contractors? How do you personally answer that question?
Yes, we're contractors.
How do I answer
Why
that
not?
question?
Oh, did you ask me or did you ask Tyler?
I asked Scott, but I would love to hear Mark Tyler's answer as well. Go ahead, Mark.
How we typically explain it is everybody who works outside the company, the installers, the salesmen, the service techs, or measure techs are all subcontractors by nature for insurance purposes, but they work exclusively for us because we keep them busy year round.
Yep.
And that's how
Very
we
cool.
answer that in install, because we get asked that question just about every single day.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I explain it too. That's all we work for is wall side. We're not working at wall side one day and 3 other places the next.
Very cool. So this is kind of the elephant in the room type question, right? Last Tuesday, Adam had addressed all of us and talked about the challenges that Wallside's facing with a lot of our shortages. And one of the shortages is labor, right? Just getting crews and people in driveways. Could you guys talk about the install date, how that's affecting your work today, and what are some of the things you're doing to try to combat that?
There's not
We'll
a
start.
whole lot you can do to combat that. I mean, Scott can attest to trying to find people to work in this industry right now is tough. Just to even find a helper to learn the trade, I mean, you just can't find them. So we try to maximize the installations the best we can and not overbook, because if you overbook, you just create this cycle of constantly moving people and moving people and moving people. Next thing you know, you got nowhere to move them. And that's why I have everybody asking me for installation dates, because it doesn't do us any good to overbook to get a job if we're just going to have to cancel another job because we have to reschedule somebody.
Yep.
And when I'm asking people the questions when they're calling me, is it extension jams? Is it height staging? 20 windows is not 20 windows. 20 woods and brick outside installs. 3 guys could go do that and be home by 2. 20 extension jams, casing is a crew and a half, and it's going to take them all day.
Yep.
You know, we count double casements as 2 windows. Sales counts double casement as 1 window.
So Scott, same question kind of over to you. What are your thoughts there? What are some of the things that you're working towards? What struggles are you facing in the field right now?
Yeah, I mean, you just can't find help. Yeah, I really put a lot of effort into finding help last year and just spent a lot of time doing it. And I would put out ads on Craigslist, I'd put out ads on Indeed, and you'd get people to respond to your ad, you know, wanting a job, but you'd call them, half of them wouldn't return your calls, and then the people that you did get a hold of, I would set up interviews. I'd go all the way out to Grand Rapids to interview people on several occasions, and they just don't show up. I mean, they just don't show up, and then you call them and they just don't answer their phone. You know, and some people I've given second chances to, like, you know, they'll make up some excuse, and then, you know what, I really want this job. Then you do it again for, you know, a couple days later, and they still don't show up. You know, yeah, just people don't want to work right now. And everybody that's, you know, everyone that's has a job and is working, you're not going to persuade them to come work for you.
Yeah, very good. And it's definitely not unique to Wallside, right? Every industry is going through the same exact challenges. Internally at the office, we're having recruiting all the time, just trying to build a team. And it'll be a challenge we face for quite some time to come. And hopefully that will turn around though soon, and we'll be able to build out these teams and continue to chunk away at our install date.
Well, one thing that we did used to have going for us was, you know, with myself especially, was, I mean, we kept busy pretty much year round. And so you could use that to your advantage to hire more people. But now we don't have that anymore because everybody's busy all the time. You know, before it's like you could get people to come work for you because I could keep them busy 5 days a week or 6 days a week, where other companies couldn't do that. They could only keep them busy 4 days a week. But now that's just not the case, because everybody is just slammed with work. So they're doing as much work as they possibly want.
That's really interesting. I did not understand that, but that makes perfect sense. Yeah. So we're going to wrap up. One more question to you, Mark Tyler. You kind of started to touch on this a little bit, but how are jobs assigned with different size customers? How is that hierarchy kind of worked through? And how do we view a 1-window customer? How do we view a 14-window customer? And how do they get into our schedule?
I mean, basically the bigger jobs, the guys are scheduling at the house or they're calling me, unless it's something special they can't schedule. We just try to maximize the day and fill it up. One customer doesn't take priority over the next to me. 1 window is the same as 14 windows. I have to get it in. You know, I can't leave those 1 windows sitting there forever because nobody wants to do them. So The way I have the scheduling set up is we leave room for the scheduling department to put those one window jobs in. Once we hit the maximum number of jobs, we move on to the next day. There has to be a good balance between small jobs and big jobs, because I have smaller crews that need those smaller jobs. I have bigger crews that can do, I have more crews now that can do the smaller jobs that can actually do the bigger jobs. You know, the Scott Lefevers, Eric, Tony, there's fewer crews that can do the 23 extension jams and jobs like that. I have a lot of small crews right now.
And again, that's because they just can't find help.
Right. So the bigger jobs, I had if it's a $4,000 labor bill, I'm sending 2 trucks there because I don't have a big enough truck just to send to that job to do it.
Yeah. Okay. So there's lots of hands going up right now. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but Mark and Scott, I want to ask you, is it okay if some of the sales, and I know Mark, you get this all the time, you probably do, Scott, already, but for some of the sales team to reach out to you with these types of questions to help brainstorm, talk about things, ask install questions?
Yeah, and a lot of them already do to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk
Yep.
to a lot of the guys every day anyway, so.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. And just a quick phone call is fine, or do you prefer an email over that, or it doesn't matter?
I mean,
I prefer text message and over emails.
right, or someone has a question, send me a picture of something. Send me a picture of the window situation. I can, get back with you.
Okay, very good. Thank you guys so much for jumping on the webinar today. Thank you for sharing a bit of your knowledge. I'm going to turn it over to Adam to wrap things up.
All right, thank you, Scott and Mark, for joining, and also for David for putting this together. The last thing I just want to add is, we all can share our knowledge to learn more about the best way from a sales perspective to sell the right and accurate way. And when we work as a team and work together, it makes the entire process much smoother. So making sure you're selling it right, providing the right expectations, not only for the installation, but now for installation dates, is it critically important to helping everybody else out. And so the best way for Wallside, besides dealing with the many challenges that we're facing, to fill in and kind of reduce this lead time, is to figure out in your own right, what can you personally do to fix that? And every single time that there's an issue on a job, or a job was missold, it means that we have to go back. So everyone can just continue doing their part to make sure that our measure technicians and our installation crews are prepared to install the jobs right in the first time and make the customer happy. It makes the entire process much smoother. So we appreciate your efforts and kind of focusing on that, because these are challenges and they're coming from a variety of different places, but all we could do is what you have in your control to try to help that situation. So thanks for taking the time. Hopefully you learned something today. Have a great day.
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing. Can
Go
you
ahead,
hear?
Scott. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of you know.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
I'm sure a lot of you guys know that Matt Saylor passed away. He's worked for me since the early 90s for sure. And, I'm sure a lot of you sales guys knew who he was, and pretty much everybody at Wallside knew who he was. So he passed away last week. So.
And we'll be sending something out. I'm sharing it also with the sales team. If you want to help support Matt and his family during this difficult time, we'll give you that opportunity as well. So Matt will certainly be missed, and it was an important piece of the Wallside family for many, many decades.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, on that
Okay,
note,
guys. Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
Well, thank you again.
all right.
Everyone
all
have a
right,
great
thanks.
day.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right. Bye.